Hello again, everybody, and welcome to Warrior Lunch Break on HBC TV 25. I'm Justin Barrientos. Thank you for joining us this week. And again, we're going to talk Warrior baseball and softball, leading off with softball and head coach Greg Jones. And Coach, we got a lot to get to this week. A lot of things happened. You had 6 games this past week, but I do want to correct one thing before we get any farther, and it's kind of a big correction. As usual, my math has failed me, and Jordan Clemens is a lot closer to the all-time pitching wins record than we thought last week. In fact, she's just 1 away from tying Cindy's record and 2 away from getting the record. So hopefully, if everything goes according to plan this week, you may have a school record to celebrate on the road.
Yeah, that would be tremendous, and obviously that, I guess it's hard to say after 5 years that something sneaks up on you.
Right.
But just like that, it happens. You just kind of stay one game at a time and focused on what you do. And so to have her that close is amazing. We look forward to celebrating it at some point this year with her.
I hate to ask this, but has Cindy said anything about it? Does the record? I mean, obviously the record means something. But to have it broken, have there been any conversations about that?
No, well, there has been now because after our call last week, we talked about it, and she and I had to look up to see who the record holder was. Was it her or Stacy? And again, I think Cindy understands that records are made to be broken, and she doesn't have a chart sitting in her office of how many strikeouts or wins she had. She's just trying to make these kids the best version of themselves every day. So, yeah, the fact that she had to look it up to see which record she had or didn't have, and or where Stacy was with Jordan, all that kind of stuff, it hasn't been something that's discussed readily in the bullpens or at home or anywhere else.
Okay. Well, A, I apologize for bringing all that up, but then B, it's good to have this thing to celebrate. Yes. On those notes, we'll kind of leave it at that until something actually happens. Now, let's talk a little bit about your freshmen this year. Amazing weekend for your freshmen. We may see another star in the making in Abby Halas, hitting .381 this season, and pitching as well. What do you see for her future? Do you see her as, kind of a spot reliever? Is she going to pitch a little bit more? Is she going to be more of a fielder? How do you see her in this year and then in the future?
I wish I had an answer to that. It's interesting with Abby because obviously we love this freshman class. We love all of our kids, but we knew this group was pretty special as freshmen when they came in from a talent standpoint. They've had to grow up in a hurry with COVID and all things that have been so different. They don't really know what normal is around here yet and what that looks like for the development side. So I give them a lot of credit. With Abby specifically, she was brought in here to be a pitcher. There's no question of that. We knew that she was a great athlete that could play the infield and outfield for us as well. Where it became a challenge, or is a challenge with her, is if she's a starting pitcher, it's pretty easy. You can play whatever position you're going to play one game. You're going to pitch the next game. You got time in between games or before the first game to get yourself ready to go. What is challenging is if she's on the field defensively for us and going to be in relief, at what point do you pull her off the field to get her ready in the bullpen to bring her into a game as that swing kid, as that number 3 kid? The very first game of the year, we were playing an exhibition against Grandview, and we had it come up the very first game. And so all of a sudden it was just right in our face of, okay, how do we do this? And she was our starting shortstop that game. We pulled her off to go get her ready in the bullpen. And she never ended up coming into the game. And so then she sat the whole rest of the game because we pulled her out of the game. And so that is the challenge, I think, in the short term. And the long term, the challenge for us is just trying to figure out what our pitching staff looks like. Right now with Jordan and Liz, sitting at the top, you don't have to have as many decisions about who's number 3 and number 4 as you piece it together. But I thought Abby threw great this weekend when she came in. It was her first real test and outing. I thought she had great presence and great energy out there. And so we need to continue to look at that and see how it's going to work, not only for now, but in the future.
And just an update on the stats, you've had 3 pitchers come in relief, including Abby, but they've only thrown 10 and a third innings. Your starters still have made the bulk of the time on the mound, or in the pitching circle, but that's obviously because they've been so dominant over the years, and including this year. Before we move away from the freshmen, certainly want to talk about Sam Keller as well. Sam has done a really good job hitting 373, has about as many at-bats as Katie, so you kind of use those metrics around numbers and such, but what have you seen from Sam so far this year?
Again, and I'll throw Tegan and Moza in there. Mm-hmm. Those three, that trifecta of freshmen are really very similar, and that's why I guess I clump them together, not just because they're in the same class, but what they've done offensively for us is that, like this weekend, they didn't flinch, and I mean, it was no, the lights weren't too bright and the stage wasn't too big, and that's important. They were all three kind of hot and cold early. They had good at bats, they had good approaches, yet the hits weren't there, and their numbers didn't come early. Sam was a kid that on our trip down to St. Louis and Springfield, she really hit the ball well. And then when we went to Mo West, she really scuffled a little bit. I don't think she had a hit for the weekend. And when we went to Upper Iowa, Sam's first at bat was a ground out to second base. And then her next at bat, she flew out to left field, and she's a left-handed hitter, and she went the other way with it. And then she's been red hot ever since. And I told her in that game, I said that fly out to the left field changed everything for you. And because she'd gotten real handsy and pull happy. And once she started to use the whole field again and try to drive the ball through the middle of the field, the game started to come back to her. But those are very mature, big time adjustments for young kids to make. And so to watch all three of those kids go through that part of the process and own their process, and that's what all three of them do really well in practice, is they own their process in the box. They know what they're working on. They work on it diligently every day, and their success is showing.
And then someone who hasn't had a whole lot of experience this year, but we got to bring it up, Emma Quimby, first collegiate hit is a grand slam. That had to have been an amazing moment.
No big deal, right? Yeah. You just walk in there and hit the ball out of the ballpark, opposite field grand slam, and the smile on her face coming around third base, and all I could think was as it happened was that just happened, and nobody could have predicted that, and so happy for her. What a great opportunity, what a great moment, and that's what makes this game special.
All right, like I said, we had a lot of things to kind of talk about, so I wanted to make sure to get that stuff in there. But you had 6 games this week. You ended up with 5 wins. In your estimation, how did the week go? I know that it was a little bit more difficult against Northern State than it was against Upper Iowa or Minnesota State Moorhead, and we can talk about the monster games against Moorhead. But in your estimation, how did the games go this week?
At this point, we take every win we can get. It's about an accumulation at this point. I really can't get over how difficult this league is. And we knew that going in. We've known it for years. But to even see what happened around the league with teams and games, it looks surprising, but I'm not surprised. And so to be 5-1 is a real accomplishment at this point. So I'll take that. For me, it's about just accumulating wins, and it's not about what our record is. It's about getting wins and getting to the conference tournament, and then giving yourself a chance at the conference tournament. So far as what we saw on the field this week out of our team, what I was probably the most pleased with was our offense. Coming out of Mo West, I was really concerned about where our offense was, because on paper our numbers look good. What my eyes were telling me was something different. We weren't squaring a lot of balls up. We weren't having great at bats. I didn't think we were in a great spot with our process. We really went back to work offensively with the time off that we had, and we barreled up a lot of balls this week from Upper Iowa into Moorhead and then Northern State. I really was happy with what our approach looked like and how many barrels we got, and our ability to drive the ball into gaps, which we hadn't done, previously. And so I was really happy with that. Obviously, there was a pretty major hiccup Saturday against Northern. not because we lost, but because of what the scoreboard looked like. We have not given up that type of offense to people in a long, long time, if ever. And that's not about laying blame. That's just about owning it. And this is what happened. Let's own it. Let's get back to work with it. And get the formula is still rather, kind of held. Even in that game, we got beat 10-3. Our formula is don't give up extra base hits, don't walk people. It takes a lot of base hits to beat you. Well, the problem was they had 17 base hits. And so they did that. They nickeled and dimed us all day long. Out of 18 hits, 17 of them were singles. So it's nothing really to be mad about. It's just about owning it that we gave up a lot of hits. And those hits led to a lot of runs. And we didn't play poorly defensively. Jordan got a second chance to come back in after getting pulled in game one and had a huge save in game two and gets 3 strikeouts in game two. I'm not concerned about where she's at. It was just one of those days. It was a hiccup for us. And so we need to get back to work and fix some of those things, just like we did with our offense. And I'm confident in our coaches and our players that they'll be able to do that.
I want to get to the upcoming schedule, but we only have about 3 minutes left in this segment. And I want to bring up Riley Stout, the power surge that she had this weekend. 4 home runs this week, only had 1 home run coming into it. You have to be happy to have that power back from Riley.
Yeah, that was big. Riley's not one of those hot and cold kids by any stretch where she'll go on tears. She's just a good hitter. And when she barrels the ball up, it's going to leave the ballpark. She and Libby are very similar that way. So my concern coming into the week with Riley was she just wasn't getting enough balls on the barrel. And we knew once she did that she would start driving the ball and getting a lot of hits. And then the more hits she's getting, the more chances she has for the ball to leave the park. And that's exactly what happened for her. Was she's down at Upper Iowa was, again, I think kind of like Sam, she had a double in the gap that might have been the biggest thing that she did. That started to lead to the other successes she was having.
All right, about 2 minutes left. You get Minnesota State at home, and then on the road this weekend against Sioux Falls and Southwest Minnesota State. How do you match up against these teams this week?
Well, it's a big week. It's Mankato week, and that's always a big week for us when your rival comes to town. And I, in the movie Miracle, when he was talking about the goalie from Russia, if you get a goal on him, you keep the puck. It's kind of the same thing facing Ward. I mean, she's averaging 13 strikeouts a game and only 1 run a game and only gives up 3 hits a game. And so, going in, you've got to play 1-0, 2-1 softball. That's where we want to be anyway. So there'll be nothing easy. They don't give wins away in Mankato. They're just too good. They're too well coached. They're fun games to play, and then this weekend is going to be a grind. Going on the road to Sioux Falls in the Southwest, it's always a tough trip. And they're all 50-50 games. They're coin flip games, and you've got to play well. You've got to earn it. Nobody's going to give anything away. So, coming off Easter weekend, they had a day off yesterday. We'll get back to work today, and I just look forward to the opportunities to continue to compete. We're moving our Mankato games from Wednesday up to Tuesday because of weather. So the stress of, kind of moving things and adjusting on the fly, playing tough teams, coming off of a loss, all of that stuff is very hard and stressful. But a year ago, we were sitting on our couches watching Netflix. So as stressed as I am, and I know the challenges it creates for our kids, we all welcome this opportunity to be able to do this year when a year ago we weren't able to. So I'm gonna choose to look at all of it as a positive, and glad we get a chance to compete this.
All right. Well, I appreciate the time again this week, and good luck in your games this week, and we'll recap them all next week.
Thank you so much, Justin.
All right. Thank you, Coach Jones. We're going to take a break here on Warrior Lunch Break. When we come back, we'll talk Warrior Baseball with head coach Kyle Poock. That's right after this.
For the days of classic pro wrestling, you can relive them right here with Classic All-Star Wrestling, featuring wrestling from the 50s to the 90s, the 4 top decades in the history of professional wrestling. From Gorgeous George to New Jack, it's all right here. Classic All-Star Wrestling. Fans, you're not going to want to miss it. Terry Funk, Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant, Jerry the King Lawler, and more.
And welcome back to Warrior Lunch Break here on HBC TV 25. We'll now talk baseball with head coach Kyle Poock. And just because of the way that scheduling works, we were able to talk to Coach after his games on Tuesday against St. Cloud, which actually were moved because of weather, so that they would be able to get the games in on Tuesday. We'll get to those in just a second. But Coach, I want to talk about Sam Conley for just a minute, because over the weekend, Sam hit a big milestone. He became the 11th player in Winona State baseball history to get 200 hits. He now stands at 202 hits, and he's 28 away from tying the all-time school record, which is amazing. It's possible, you got 20 games remaining. If he does what he did in the first half of the season, he could tie that record, and then with playoffs, he could go over that mark. Just your thoughts on Sam's career and what he's done at Winona State.
Well, Sam is one of those guys that coaches we wish we could ever. Not that our guys, our guys are good guys or whatever, but Sam is just one of those guys that you're just thankful that you have a guy like him on the team. He's a leader by example. He's not a rah-rah guy, but he listens to what you talk to about. We talk hitting all the time about what the approach is, and he's the one guy that takes it and really tries to put it to use in games and stuff. Doesn't try to do too much. The ironic thing is we were about the only school that recruited him. He's an average athlete. He'll be the first to tell. He doesn't run real fast, doesn't throw, but he's a first baseman and he can hit. I had some ties with his family, his dad and his uncle, when I was coaching at UW Stevens Point in the early 90s. So I had a pretty good idea that he could hit, because both his dad and uncle were really good hitters at UW Stevens Point. And so I started following up on him, and every time I went and watched him, and I always tried to see him when I knew he was going to see good pitching. He always just hit the ball hard, squared it up, clutch time with guys in scoring position. And just a guy that has shown that if you really put your nose to the grindstone and work hard and really work on the fundamentals, that you can have a successful career.
And one of the unique things about his career and his hit total is that he has never hit a home run and never hit a triple at Winona State. So all these are base hits or doubles, and he's also never hit below 337 in his career. That was his low point his freshman year, and he's hit above that the rest of his time at Winona State.
The ironic thing is he had a chance for a triple yesterday, but he shut it down at second because, we were just trying to get that. It was in the late in the game. We're trying to get that extra run, and we had Joe Erkey was on second, and so he hit the ball down the right field line, and our guys in the dugout were all yelling, go, go, go. They wanted to go for a triple, but he stopped at second because he knew that's all he needed to do and stuff. So, yeah, I'm still waiting for him to get that home run. He hit a home run at the Northwoods League a couple summers ago with bat up at Eau Claire at Carson Park. So he's got in him, but his swing is a line drive, middle of the field, hit it where it's pitched, do your job, execute what needs to be done, and that's all he's thinking about. He's not trying to hit home runs or think home runs. He's just trying to do and think what's best for the team and what do I need to do and execute that.
That's awesome. And we should mention the school record is Aaron Braun, 230 hits from 1995 to 1998, who you actually coached for a little while when you came back to Winona State.
Yep. Aaron was he was a very good hitter too. A lot of pop in his bat though. He hit a lot of home runs and stuff. So, but two very good hitters, a little bit different styles and stuff or whatever. But Aaron was more of a free swinger at times and stuff, but very, very effective, both of them.
So we'll definitely follow that as Sam moves up the ranks at Winona State, as we said, currently 11th all-time with 202 hits. All right, let's talk about the games that you played against St. Cloud on Tuesday. You got a split on the road, which is kind of what you said, that you're looking for this season. But it was kind of weird because you had some delays as far as the weather goes. Tell us how those games went for you.
Well, the first game didn't go. We've been trying to preach about staying out of big innings, and we gave up 2 in the first inning, which doesn't hurt us. But we had 2 different innings. We gave up 3 and 3, which we just made mistakes. We didn't play good fundamental baseball. We didn't pitch good in those innings as well. We've been pitching a little bit better, but we didn't do that game, and that hurt us. But I give them credit. They threw a guy against us, a left-handed pitcher, and I think we only had, against the starter, we only had 2 hits. And then when they brought a new guy in, then we got the bats going a little bit. But a lefty that threw very, very well against us and kept our guys off balance in that. But then Then we got together second game though, and Cam Kramer again, who's been our midweek guy, he's been throwing really well, did a great job. Was pitching very well, kind of cruising, and we thought we were going to get maybe 7 innings out of him, but then we had a 2-hour rain delay. Start out with lightning, and then when there's lightning, you got a 30-minute delay. While the groundskeeper up there in St. Cloud, they got the MAC, which they have grounds crew and everything. They came in and said the radar shows it's going to be raining here in 5 minutes, so they put the tarp on, and so we had basically a 2-hour rain delay. And then at that point, we just went with Nick Harold, who's one of our big guns too, and he came in and threw 4 innings. That's most I think he's pitched in a one stint for us. He's usually a 1 or 2 inning guy for us, but he's been fresh, and he threw really well as well. And we were able to squeak out a couple more runs and get the 5-1 win.
All right. As I'm looking through the stories and about the games that you've had this season, you're not having a problem getting guys on base. It's just, getting those guys in, because I think that in game 1 you had 8 runners, you stranded 8 runners, but that's kind of been what's been going on this season. How do you work on that to try to get them in?
Well, one thing we're still not at 100% with our lineup. We got Derek Martin, our shortstop's back now, and that helped a little bit. We're hopefully getting Zach Stang back 100% for the weekend. That'll help shore some of that up a little bit. Not to say that we got playing some young guys who are adjusting to college and trying to get in their head again, like I talked about with Sam. When you get guys in scoring position, you got a job to do, and you got to work hard to get the bat on the ball. I know it's a lot harder than it is just talking about it, but if you have a mindset that I'm going to do whatever I can to get the bat on the ball and put it in play and see if things happen. We've been striking out too much for my liking in that situation, because I think we're trying to do too much, and we're trying to make it, simplify it, make it easy, get a good pitch, put the barrel on it, see what happens. So did a little bit better job that second game yesterday.
Okay. As we talk about the games that happened previous against Mary and then against Northern State, tell us a little bit about how those games went, because as you were coming off of a winning streak, and then you kind of ran into Mary, who took 2 from you. Tell us a little bit about those games.
Well, we actually split with Mary.
Yeah, you split Mary. Yeah,
split with Mary. The last week, Wednesday's midweek, was kind of like yesterday. We didn't have the rain delay, but we made some mistakes, didn't pitch good enough, and they capitalized on that. And then the second game, Cameron Kramer pitched again and did a great job, and we flipped the switch on them and kind of flipped, and we capitalized on their mistakes. Mm-hmm. So that was good to see. Like I said, midweek in our league, if you get a split on that midweek, that's always a plus. The weekend was a different story. The weekend was basically we didn't hit at all on the weekend. We just really struggled with that. We changed some things in the lineup, tried to see if we could do some things. One of our freshman guys got some play at shortstop, did a great job defensively. Austin Byer did hit a home run, but then that was it. And we just didn't capitalize when we got guys on base. And Northern State, again, credit to them, they did a great job of it. They got guys in base scoring position. All they did was get the bat on the ball, hit the ball, put it in play somewhere, and see what happens.
I want to go back to Mary for just a second, because as you said, you got the split, but it was hard to get that split in game 2 because you had to hang on. I think it was you had an 8-5 lead, and they ended up scoring 2 runs in the last inning, but then Justin Furpo came on, and you were able to hang on to that game. What was that like to kind of have to hang on in game 2?
Well, it's kind of nervous in the dugout, get nerve-wracking and stuff, but we just keep telling, when we have a lead at the end of the game, you just got to go out and make sure you give more outs than you give up runs. And Justin is the guy who, I like him in that role because he doesn't get flustered. He just, I gave something up, give me the ball, I'm going to throw some more pitches, I'm going to throw some strikes and see what we can do. We'll get guys out. So he's not where some guys in that situation, they get tight as can be and then they just lose it. Well, he's not one that's going to do that. He just stays loose all the time, and he's going to give you his best. Sometimes it works really good, sometimes it doesn't, but that's baseball.
Yeah. So then coming off those games against Northern into the St. Cloud games on Tuesday, were you kind of happy with the progress that was made from the weekend into Tuesday? And then how does that translate to what you're going to do this weekend against Southwest?
Yeah, again, the first game yesterday was a little disappointing, but I saw some things that we looked a little bit better. I thought, okay, we're gonna be okay here. And then the win in the second game, that's a big plus going into the weekend. especially because we had to scramble. We were supposed to play today, but because of rain, I think getting pounded up there right now with weather. So it's a good thing to move, but we had to move up a day, and guys had to now online stuff, not like being in face to face, but they had to do some changes on that. We had to change our schedule and all our logistics and stuff. And then we had to get the COVID testing a day earlier and do all that stuff. So it was a lot of stuff going on Monday that normally Monday would have been an easy day and kind of relax and get a short practice in and stuff. So we had to elevate that a little bit, but I think we did a good job and made some adjustments and being able to get the split with St. Cloud, which we've struggled with it the last couple of years. We've struggled with them. They're a pretty good program and stuff, but so to get a split with them at their place is always a plus.
All right, and this format that you have again for weekends, you play 2 on Saturday and then 1 on Sunday. How does that work for you as a coaching staff in getting your team ready to play and knowing that you have to use some players in a doubleheader, but then you maybe have to save some players for that one game on Sunday?
Yeah, well, honestly, it's a lot easier to use because we used to play 4 games on the weekend, right, and then 2 midweeks. So we were playing 6 games a week. So it helps a little bit on that thing. Knowing that the second day is always 9-inning, 1 game. It's a little bit different mindset of how we're doing things on the doubleheader and that. So, depending on situations and scores on a Saturday doubleheader, we may decide to save a guy for Sunday rather than using him on Saturday. A lot of different things. There's probably 150 different scenarios that you can go through and you're trying to think of whatever and how and when and why and where and stuff. But that's probably when you got good assistants, then they can tell you what we need to do.
Well, how much have you had to maybe delegate this season as you're talking about all the travel things and the COVID testing and maybe dates have changed because of weather, that throws things into there. I mean, how has that worked this year with your coaching staff?
Well, Coach Riley, who's been with me since 2010, he does basically all our travel stuff. And so he's in charge of the buses and the hotels. I'm in charge of the money part with that. So I'm making sure we got the meal money and making sure we have money in our budgets to call it that type of stuff like that. So it's been good. I just tell him, hey, make sure we got a hotel for this trip, make sure the bus is scheduled. And then if there's any changes, then he works with those things. And I work on the other end with the budgets and that type of stuff on that, the non-baseball. I call it the non-baseball coaching stuff. And then when we get to the field, we just split up the duties and a lot of times he runs all the drills and then I just walk around, supervise. If I got to break down guys, do one-on-one coaching and that type of thing, I'll do it at that point and then just kind of oversee and watch everything. So
in your estimation, then we only have about a minute left, but how has this year been different than previous years because of COVID, because of all the different changes that have happened?
Well, the one thing is we didn't have a lot of non-conference games ahead of time. Usually we play 15. We only got 5 this year because the NCAA reduced us from 50 to 40. So that was different. The only other big change is because we basically played in our same schedule this year that we were supposed to play last year. We just forwarded 1 year, so that hasn't changed. The biggest thing is making sure that our guys are staying on to make sure they're doing what they can so when we do the COVID testing, we don't get any positives. And our guys have been we haven't had a positive since, I think, our last guys that were positive were around Thanksgiving time or between Thanksgiving and Christmas when they were home.
Oh, sure.
And so since we've been back, our guys, and I tell them all the time, I appreciate it. They've been doing a good job making sure they're limiting their contact with outside people and doing what they're supposed to be doing and going to class or Zoom class or whatever. So.
All right. Well, very good. Appreciate the time again this week and good luck this weekend in Marshall.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right. We'll see you next week. And thanks everybody for watching Warrior Lunch Break. We'll see you next time here on TV 25.